There was an accident, and we're like, traffic, fender bender. It's Scotty Scheffler in handcuffs? Amazing! That's incredible.
Of all the people on the PGA Tour, wouldn't you think that Scotty Scheffler had to have the longest odds for getting arrested? This is the biggest goody two-shoes on the entire PGA Tour. All he does is talk about his wife and his baby and his faith and how he's a good husband. Scotty, what are we doing? Do you think this is the cop having a power trip? Or
Yes.
do you think that something got into Scotty Scheffler where maybe he is lacking in sleep because of his newborn, he is cranky, and he said something to this cop?
Oh, my God. This cop's going to get fired. Guaranteed. This guy probably does not follow golf at all. He probably has no idea who Scotty Scheffler is. And it shouldn't matter. You shouldn't have to be someone of status to get treated a certain way or not. And I'll guarantee you, this guy, this officer, overreacted, got on an ego trip, said, "Oh, you're trying to go past me? Boom. Get up against the car, son." Handcuffed him, no idea who he is, and it's going to come out. Well, the Louisville Police Department would like to issue an apology to the PGA Tour and Scotty Scheffler. Our officer has been suspended with pay pending further investigation, guaranteed. Over what? A misunderstanding over traffic?
Oh my gosh. And this is your number one star on tour. He is your world number one. It couldn't have been somebody else. It couldn't have been, somebody who we can't even think of right now. So I'm glad that they at least delayed it, because I think everybody knows that if Scotty Scheffler is not in the field, you can't even claim yourself a winner. Like, if you don't beat Scotty, you didn't beat the best.
Truly a remarkable story, and good morning, guys. Good to be with you. Detained by police in handcuffs. That was the original reporting, but now we're seeing some semblance of a mugshot out there, not independently verified by me or you guys, but that would tell us that he was arrested, meaning processed, booked, fingerprints, the whole shebang, and then probably a court date at some point within the Texas area, or excuse me, the Kentucky area. So, there's a lot to chew on right now. What's really striking to me is the police officers did not know who Scotty Scheffler was. Reportedly, one officer walked up to Jeff Darlington of ESPN and said, "Who is this guy?" I mean, he apparently was just a normal guy to everybody else, but we know he's the number one player in the world and in contention at the PGA Championship. And, oh, by the way, trying to chase a slam, if you will, winning the Masters, PGA, US Open, and the Open Championship.
I think everybody sees this great round of golf from Xander Schauffele, but we say, okay, we'll see if he can finish in this one, because hasn't that been the problem for Xander Schauffele? He looked really good in the first couple of rounds at the Wells Fargo just last week, and guess who won that tournament? It was Rory. So I think you look at these scores, and I do think that we're going to see a much different round today, once it gets underway, because there's rain in the forecast. Scoring conditions were very birdie friendly yesterday, and I think that's why we saw a ton of low scores. Like, it was a historic day for not just Xander Schauffele, but the entire field. 64 players shooting under par. That's the PGA Championship record for the number of guys under par. So I think that when we have a major that's playing this easy, usually they try to make it harder because they thump their chest about it being really tough scoring conditions. Yeah. But I don't think they'll have to do that too much, just simply because there's going to be rain today. Like, I just did a Google search of the weather in Louisville. I think it's raining currently. So maybe we see something different. So when it comes to live betting, you look at somebody who can play in the elements and not just put up, big numbers, or really low numbers when the scoring conditions are very easy. So I'm not sure who we would take, but can we go against Scotty Scheffler? He is still your second favorite to win it all. even though he is not second on the leaderboard. So I think a lot of these guys are still within striking distance because you've got to remember it is simply one round of a 4-round tournament. So I think plenty of these guys are still in it. Still think Rory could pull off a win here because we saw what he did last week at Wells Fargo where he came from behind. So I still think this is pretty much wide open, at least for the guys that are the chalk.
I think I'm going to go Knicks here. The money's coming in on the Pacers. Went from 5.5 to 6.5. I feel like this number is too big. And when I see a number this big, and it seems, at least to me, this is obviously too big, it makes me think maybe you're on the wrong side here. But the key for the Knicks, as it has been all series long, as you know, Chelsea, is will these guys be rested? Will these guys hit a wall or not? And they did the last time that this series was in Indianapolis, a couple games ago. But the Knicks can thank Caitlin Clark, because Caitlin Clark had her home debut last night, right, for the Indiana Fever. So that pushed this NBA Game 6 back a day, and that extra day for the Knicks is absolutely huge because they're not deep. We know all their starters have been playing a ton of minutes. Jalen Brunson, I think, is in for another big game. Every time I think he's going to fall back a little bit, he drops another 40-point performance. So the money's coming on the Pacers, but I like the way the Knicks have shown the fight and the grit that they have despite playing so much. Knicks have been better on the boards as well. I'm going to go Knicks plus 6.5.
Are all losses created equal? Because normally I would say a loss is a loss is a loss. You know, you sit your starters in the second half, whatever, it only counts as one loss. But 70 points? Like, this is something that, like, not even the Charlotte Hornets could accomplish in, like, most games. They scored 9 points in the fourth quarter. They scored 14 in the first quarter. This was downright terrible. And if somebody wants to put their faith in the Nuggets to win the series, like, do you second guess yourself going into Game 7? Or do you say this is just a one-off? This is one game. The Nuggets have still won a championship for a reason.
I just have to believe. I don't think this run is over for them. The T-Wolves have been awesome. I feel like the T-Wolves are maybe a year away. I'm going to be rolling with Denver on Sunday. And I also feel like Ant Edwards is about this close to becoming the new face of the league because he is showing everyone what he can do. He just, even after a bad night like he had back in Denver in Game 5, he responds immediately. He's just too good. And what is he, 22 years old? You're that young. His game is not even close to being fully developed. So I still believe in the Nuggets, but the gap is closing.